and welcome to Renew. My name is Leslie Berger, and I'm going to be telling you a little bit about the College of Forest resources in today's show. The College of Forest Resources promotes and enables the conservation, management, and wise use of our natural resources. Within the College of Forest Resources, there are 3 academic departments, and today we're going to be featuring one of those 3, the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Aquaculture. Here to represent that unit is Dr. Brian Davis and graduate student Taylor Gibson. Welcome to the show today.
Good morning, thanks for having us.
Glad to have you here. Very timely, we're going to be talking about waterfowl today, and here at the end of the year, a lot of people are thinking about getting out in the woods and maybe enjoying some time bird watching or in the duck blind. And so this is the world that you two live in all the time. So Brian, you are associated with the James C. Kennedy Endowed Chair of Waterfowl and Wetlands Conservation. So tell us a little bit about what that chair is and what is your role in that?
So I'm an associate professor, and and thankfully in that position, it's a great position. We're one of 4 or 5 in the nation right now, and we do a diversity of research from very applied research to currently have a National Science Foundation grant. We're actually studying mallard genetics. So quite a diversified program in terms of applied and a little more, I would say, esoteric research, if you will. But master's student, graduate, PhD students, undergraduate students, we try to integrate all those in some of that work. So we do studies on mallard ecology. One of our students actually working on coastal wetland restoration in South Louisiana, and got a brand new student in Alaska, actually studying cavity nesting ducks in Alaska, much like Taylor is here in Mississippi. So pretty diverse, regionally and in terms of types of work.
Yes. So why is Mr. Kennedy so interested in waterfowl and wetlands in the first place? How did this come to be?
He, like a lot of us, actually discovered waterfowl hunting at a young age, and he's had a lot of opportunities to do things in his life and travel, and waterfowl has always been his passion. He's an incredible supporter of Ducks Unlimited, and Jim has actually said, I want my legacy to be waterfowl conservation in North America, and he's really done a lot to support that. So not only the endowed programs in the country, but Ducks Unlimited and a lot of other agencies.
Mm-hmm. So these endowed programs ensure that there is a continued focus on this topic through that endowment, that even if you were to leave Mississippi State, let's say Taylor gets his PhD and he comes back, maybe he continues your legacy here at Mississippi State.
Correct. No, that's exactly right. Waterfowl's kind of gone through a transformation. There was a period back in probably the 60s, 70s, 80s. We kind of call that the heyday of discoveries. And then since then, some of the other wildlife disciplines, I think, have kind of followed suit with things like the North American Waterfowl Management Plan and the joint ventures, as we know those, throughout North America. And the waterfowl legacy, I think, for a while may have taken a little bit of a back seat with the generation of these other things, but we always like to boast that waterfowl live everywhere except Antarctica. They're all around the world, and economically and ecologically and aesthetically, they're really, really important. So they are quite biodiverse given the number of species in North America. So those are important programs because we work with agriculture, bottomland hardwood, forested environments, grasslands, things like that. Mm-hmm. So we encompass, a lot of the different ecosystems. So
sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And certainly with the advent of hurricanes that create a lot of destruction, and we could see the importance of wetland conservation on a personal basis, even if you aren't necessarily a waterfowl hunter or aficionado. So Taylor, you are part of this program. You've been studying under Dr. Davis now for, 2 years now, almost,
2 years
isn't
with
it?
a master's, yep.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your project and where you hope to go with all the information that you're learning and gaining.
Yeah, so working on it's actually a regional wood duck nesting ecology study. It's currently 8 states involved, so I cover the Mississippi portion, all scattered throughout the southeast. So I cover Mississippi. Looking at, for the longer term study, wanted to be able to estimate actual recruitment in wood ducks, so ducklings surviving to breed the following nesting season. Mm-hmm. So that'll take a few more years of data collection, Right now, we're able to look at general nesting ecology things, nest success, any kind of abandonment or nest parasitism, things like that. So it's been fun, past being in this program for sure, and excited to get out of here, graduate, and look elsewhere, and definitely stay in waterfowl wetlands field for sure.
What do you like best about this kind of work?
Field work is nice. It's I mean, I just love wetlands in general. More so, you see so many different things every day, and be able to go out and catch birds and tag little ducklings. It's so hard to complain. It's
Yeah, we were talking about it beforehand. The show started. You should have brought one along with us so you can show everybody how cute they are when they're really small. So, Dr. Davis, back to you a little bit. What are some of the challenges in waterfowl and wetland conservation that actually kind of stimulated Dr. Kennedy's actions?
Well, there were a couple of key publications from some folks. One examined kind of the shortfall in waterfowl ecology, waterfowl professors, if you will. Probably back in the 1980s, in terms of where we are geographically, that's when a lot of funding was really kind of thrown at waterfowl programs, because we discovered that wintering waterfowl were really important, not just breeding waterfowl. Mm-hmm. Historically, we thought if birds can just get back to the prairies or Alaska or wherever and reproduce, everything is fine. And we figured out that what happens on the wintering grounds, especially in terms of habitat and water and things like that, that can actually influence what we call recruitment, like Taylor mentioned, basically how many birds survive, female birds especially. Those are the ones we're interested in. So a lot of funding was thrown in a lot of wintering studies in the 80s and 90s and even early 2000s. And last couple of decades, last decade or so, there's been, I would say, less emphasis on some of the waterfowl work, and a lot more of other, non-game, endangered species, things like that, which is fine. But and then I think too, the other thing that we're concerned about is just kind of the loss or less participation in hunting, and some of the as you would say, hook and bullet activities of some of the younger students nowadays. So we really thought about it and recognized the need to create and make sure we maintain programs that are really not only do a lot of good applied research, but also try to recruit the next generation. Sure. And teach people that, hey, hunting's really not that bad. And we've actually since started a university hunting program here as well. So.
So Taylor, your work is that applied work that he was just talking about. So what are some of the things that you're beginning to see, the outcomes of your research?
We're able to, we've seen a lot, kind of determining what kind of causes nests to fail a lot of times, looking at quite a few different variables leading up to what boxes, why are they selecting certain nest boxes over the others, what caused this nest to fail specifically. And then we're going out and we're marking just tons of birds, so we'll be able to, with the recruitment thing, be able to see upcoming years, the more ducklings we start to capture back, get better estimates on how well these birds are surviving, how much they're actually contributing to the overall population from this smaller population from nest boxes.
So you're catching those ducklings while they're still in the nest, and you're marking them while they're still in the nest.
The day of hatching. They usually leave right after, about within 24 hours of hatching, so we got to be there the day of.
Right, because they leave that nest as soon as they're done hatching.
That's it.
And so then later on, when you're doing additional trapping efforts, whether it's here or someplace else, and that bird is already marked, and they can say, okay, well, we know that this bird came from Knoxville National Wildlife
Tell you
Refuge.
the exact box and day, and
that's it. So for those that may not familiar, you don't stick a big old leg band on a little teeny tiny duckling, right? So how do you mark a duckling so that you don't harm it?
It's a small metal tag that goes right in the webbing of the right foot, and so have those up until, and then when we do pre-season, the banding before hunting season, they're typically large enough that we can fit them with a leg band.
So have you ever opened up a nest box and found something in there besides ducklings?
You take your pick.
What's the most surprising thing you found in a nest box?
Let's see, this past season we had a fox squirrel with a baby in there nesting. Let's see, plenty of snakes and raccoons, tons of passerine nests. There's no telling. Tree frogs love to jump out at you.
Right. So you opened it with a little bit of fear and trepidation about what's actually going to be in there.
That.
Red wasps.
Red wasps.
wasps.
Yeah.
Right.
Take your pick.
Well, and it's funny, but one of the things that wasn't something I knew when I first started down this path is that there actually are some hazards to being a wildlife biologist. And it could be little things like being stung by a red wasp when you go to check a nest. Or I was doing a lot of aerial surveys for waterfowl, and I'm sure you have done that too. And unfortunately, sometimes those aircraft come down and people don't survive that. Somebody else I know, a colleague, picked up a lung disease from doing work in caves. So there actually are some hazards that people don't realize in trying to get the answers to those questions that do contribute to conservation. So I appreciate you maybe not laying your life on the line, but the hard work that you've done to be able to contribute to some of the waterfowl and wildlife conservation. It is worth it. It makes you feel like you're contributing to something bigger than yourself, that you're just a piece, but you've contributed something. So before we end, Dr. Davis, what is some cool question you want to answer in your position?
Maybe the most interesting thing right now, in terms of big picture stuff, is the fact that genetically we're learning that a lot of our mallards in North America are carrying feral game farm genes. That's part of this National Science Foundation study. So what one of our colleagues, Dr. Phil Lovretsky, he's at Texas El Paso, we've kind of groomed him into the duck world. He'll say, man, this is going on genetically. What's going on ecologically? And then vice versa. It's a pretty neat little trade-off. But as mallards move from the northeast, from Canada and the northeastern United States, he's got a pie chart. He's got wild genes and game farm genes. And as you move from the northeast, predominantly those in the northeast are more feral game farm mallards. Right. And as you come to the Mississippi flyway, like Louisiana, Arkansas, and Mississippi, we still have pure mallards. So the big question is, have they just not gotten here yet? Or are there actually social behavioral things going on? We call those assortative mating, where older birds typically mate with older birds and things like that. And maybe some of those mallard hens that are still pure are ignoring these males that have feral genes in them and are just pairing with wild mallards. Right. And then the birds in the prairies are also wild. And so maybe there's a connection there.
Wow,
so.
That's really interesting stuff. I appreciate you sharing that with us, and we look forward to the outcomes of that work. It's very timely work. I hope you've all learned a little bit more about the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Aquaculture and some of the work that's happening in the wetlands and waterfowl conservation world, work that Dr. Davis and his colleagues and his graduate students are doing. I wish you the best for the end of this new year, and I hope you'll come join us back again here at Renew in the future. I've been your host, Leslie Berger.